Well, this is the first thing we're going to talk about is a post on mindtickle.com. It is the State of Remote Readiness Report. The title that I've outlined here in the doc is 75% of revenue leaders feel, quote, somewhat effective at training their salespeople, while 17% say they're not effective at all. Victor, this is a problem. If 17% of sales leaders don't feel like they can train the team, what's going on here?
Bad leadership. I mean, if you can't, if you feel you can't train your team, that's a shocking number. That number should be like 0, maybe 1% as outliers. But if you can't train your team, I mean, who's really the problem here, Will?
That is a very good point. We probably don't need to go through the rest of this now. We probably just sum that up. But I'll just give you a few more numbers. The top 4 problems for revenue leaders that they're trying to solve include onboarding new salespeople, addressing a salesperson's need for training or addressing a skill deficiency, bringing underperforming salespeople to an acceptable performance level, and supporting a change in sales messaging. And I thought that one was really interesting. 37% of sales leaders don't feel effective in supporting a change in sales messaging. It's this because sales messaging has just got so complicated. And now we can't just tell people to start pitching this line of copy. Now we've got to change it in our sales enablement software. We've got to change it on the website. Marketing's now involved with everything that we do, so we've got to change it there as well. Perhaps sales leaders are feeling slightly out of the depth with some of this. Does that shock you or surprise you, Victor, a little bit in that 37% of sales leaders have difficulty supporting a change in sales messaging?
It doesn't surprise me. I think the number sounds about right. And we've had this problem in the past, even before technology and everything you mentioned above. And that is usually the disconnect between marketing sees in terms of what they've done in research and what the frontline salespeople see in terms of messaging. And sometimes they just, collide. They don't agree. So salespeople go, screw that. I'm doing my own messaging. And again, I think leadership sits atop. I would love your opinion on this. Sometimes leaders sit on top and they go in a room with marketing and said, all right, let's build up some nice voice of the customer messages. Let's get this down, right? And then they deliver it to salespeople without their involvement. And salespeople go, no, I don't think I want to tell my customer this. I don't think that's going to work, And what do you think of that thought?
I agree. So I'm doing 2 large enterprise deals right now. About one of them. There's another one we'll touch on after we click record. So there's 2 companies, because they listen to this show, so I don't want them to know who I'm talking about here. 2 large enterprise companies, right? And one of them is having real issues. Not issues, it's just being very slow. I signed off with a VP of sales on this large contract that we're doing. We're going to do a load of training for them. And got on a call. The money's there. We're rocking and rolling. We're ready to go. Now, 6-7 weeks later, they've accepted the invoice. That's all being processed. But they wanted to write up their own contracts of what's going on. And it's all stuck with legal and it's all over the place. And I messaged the VP of sales and the team's working on it. It's coming, relax, chill out. And then by the time I get to the individuals in the legal team, I don't think they don't call it a legal team, whatever they call it, but that's essentially what it is. They're saying, well, there's this issue. We need to have a look at this. You should probably have a solicitor from your side. The deal's getting to that kind of size that you should probably look at this seriously yourself rather than just sign it. And so I think that's kind of first-hand experience of what you're describing there of the VP who actually has the budget says, or the leader says, we're rocking and rolling, let's do this. But then what's the saying, shit falls down and then it lands on everyone else underneath who has to actually pick up the pieces and implement some of this. So that might be some of the issue here, in that the VP of sales, the sales leadership, they say, we want to change the sales messaging to this. We're working with the VP of marketing who says, this is effective. But then as it trickles down through all these, especially in the enterprise, these layers of bureaucracy, it all kind of gets scattered and just becomes a mess. So maybe they're saying, rather than saying they can't control their team and the messaging, they're saying they can't control the machine itself to get that messaging into production.
That makes sense. I'll leave it at that. That's a good summary right there.
And we'll cover one just final bit of this MindTickle State of Remote Readiness report, because I thought this was interesting. The report revealed that 50% of revenue leaders haven't documented what it takes to become a successful remote sales rep. So assume what they're saying here is they've got relative documentation of what it takes to become a good sales rep pre-global pandemic. Now that everyone's remote, they've not managed to document what becomes what is successful in a remote environment. And that would, to me, would seem like an absolute priority now that we're now at the point where onboarding's probably happening and we're just hiring remote people. So if we don't document what we need, what leads to success now, how can you hire the right person? How can you onboard them? How can you accelerate them? So that was interesting to me that 50% of sales revenue leaders haven't documented what it takes to be successful in this new world that we're living in.
I think that number is too high. Revealed at, or 50% revealed. I think it's more around. It should be higher. I've been talking to a lot of companies, and I asked them about their remote selling process, right? And blank look. Well, I mean, we have something, Victor. We have something. I mean, what is that something? So I usually say, why don't we do this? So my training doesn't conflict with what messaging you're giving your salespeople. Why don't you send me what you have for your remote selling process, right? Well, and they're like, now remember, they've built this up like, yeah, we have something. We have something. And then they wind up sending me this like one page of bullet points. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, and they're like, that's our remote selling playbook. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I don't say that to them, but I'm like, are you kidding me? So I think that number is understated. There's probably more because the dynamics are so new. I think even towards the end of 2020, we were somewhat in denial that things weren't going to go back. We were like saying, no, they will go back to normal. And I think now we're finally settling in, Will. Like really settling into, okay, we have to change. So I think they need to get on it. Build their process out on the remote selling side.
For sure. Okay, well, let's move on to the next topic here. This is an article from Forbes. We'll see where we go with this one, Victor.
We'll
see where we go with this one.
By the way, we should warn the audience. We're about to enter dangerous waters. Yep. Very choppy,
This is where
waters.
all my contracts, sponsorships, and everything could potentially fall apart.
This is where it goes bad.
This
is the part of the movie where you, by the way, it's like the part of the movie where you don't, everything's really good at the movie. You go, oh, it's about to go bad. Because everything's just too good. Okay, it's about to go bad, I think. Go ahead, Will.